We've got some nodding there, some waving, some fingers, and goodness knows what. That must mean we're ready for a Podful of Saints. Episode 41, I think it is, the series 2021-22 season. With myself, David Tavener, somewhere over there, tapping his chest, of course, is Lee Wood. Evening, Lee, afternoon, whatever it is.
Evening, Taz. Are you cold, mate? You look a little bit sort of... You okay?
I'm never okay.
Well, yeah.
I've got two shirts on. Oops, God knows what that was, but that's gone.
So you're hearing aid, Tabs? Oh, no, hang on. There he's back.
Probably.
Hang on.
It's one of yours, Lee. It must be one of yours. And Jake Ellacott. Good evening, Jake.
Hello, Dave. Hello, everyone. I hope you're both well.
What a fantastic start to the pod.
Look at the bright side. There's only one way it can go from here. Right. We have a game to reflect on last Saturday. Hungerford Town versus St Albans City. We went down the back of 5 straight defeats. We'd had a couple of wins, 4 straight defeats before that. A 2-0 win. Very welcome 2-0 win. You two will have seen the highlights. I don't think either of you made it to Bulpit Lane. I'll quickly go through the game then. It was a poor game to watch. The quality was poor. But Hungerford had the first 20 minutes. We were very comfortable with the rest of the game. They only had one shot on target. We were comfortable, thoroughly deserved to win. It wasn't pretty. People say, was it that pitch? Well, when Hungerford came to Clarence Park, you might remember, I thought they looked one of the best sides we've played this season down the park. They did. They played well that day. Saturday, they looked very poor. People say, is it their pitch? If you've seen the highlights, it looks bare all over, more than it does from the touchlines. But they've lost 8 home games and 8 away games, so they can lose wherever, at home or away. It doesn't bother them. So I don't think you can say it's a pitch that makes them change their style, but it probably doesn't help them. Well, what did you two make from the highlights?
I thought, as much as we can slate the pitch, and it's always been the same down there. I mean, I remember going down there and got called off 15 minutes before 3 o'clock. That was going on for 6 years ago now, 5-6 years. I thought the Saints, though, great response to recent results, and I did not see that coming at all. As you say, apart from that opening 20 minutes, I thought we worked ourselves into the game well, took a bit of control, and put away the chances we had, and much needed 3 points. And suddenly the season is alive again. And, we've talked about how we haven't turned up in a lot of big league games this season. Saturday, it was a big game, really, in terms of a chance of getting into this playoffs, and we did turn up. So well done to the lads.
Lee?
Yeah, so I think Jake and I both, we were sort of talking about the fixture, and we weren't really hopeful, were we, mate, really? It was that we don't sort of go to Hungerford and get a great deal out of the game. Jake and I were actually in the smashed avocado and quinoa capital of Hertfordshire, which is Harpenden. And as soon as that first goal went in, we were just sort of fixed to our phones, weren't we? Just looking for updates. Our Sunday roasts taste so much better when City get 3 points. And I think the one thing that we brought out of the game was there is a little bit of fight left in this old dog. There is a little bit of something. There was a spark there. We spoke about 2 weeks ago on the pod about these final few weeks being a reboot almost. The players have had a little bit of time to recuperate now. Players are starting to come back. Maybe they've been a bit rested. So now they're going to go into this sort of last month or so really focused. I think it's imperative, though, not to worry too much about the playoffs. Get back to winning games of football, and the playoffs will soon take care of themselves, fellas.
I think it's a great idea to have a Sunday roast on a Saturday. We did play well. Defensively, we were solid. Callum Adebiyi returned after 7 games out, I think it was. Came in for Joy McKenna. I don't know why he was missing. One of you two might know. And he did well. He's almost been an unsung hero this season, I think, Callum. And that was his first goal for the club, a nice glancing header, which came after Bayley Brown opened it, as you would have seen from the highlights, with a cracking effort from the edge of the box, totally out of the blue, just turned and smashed it.
Yeah, fair play to him. He's got a lot of stick this season as Bayley.
Not from us, though, I have to say.
To be fair, yeah.
Not from us.
From a lot of supporters I chat to. But brilliant strike for that on Saturday. And I know he's had a difficult couple of weeks off the pitch with, I think, a loss in the family. And I think you saw with the celebration how much it meant to him. So, yeah, well done, Bayley. Absolutely brilliant effort. And as you say, Callum Adebiyi, I think last week or the week before we mentioned that he probably has been a big loss in this sort of recent run of poor defeats. And I think we saw that on Saturday, defensively much better, much stronger. And it was good to see both of them open their accounts for the club. And I think we have to mention Mr. David Noble in midfield as well, when we're talking about players that stood out at Hungerford.
And he won a header in the build up to the first goal.
That's a rare, isn't it?
but Hungerford, they didn't help themselves. They played so much long ball, but it wasn't just long ball. When Billericay played it the other week, it was direct to certain people and certain areas. It was a well-drilled plan. Hungerford were awful. They were slicing it. Their number 3, Curtis, whatever his blooming name is, he managed to have every boundary in Berkshire. His clearances were woeful. But what they did by doing that was just concede possession, which suits us fine. And we just ground it out. It wasn't a stylish performance. We ground it out, thoroughly deserved it. And we may need to see a few more like that over the coming weeks.
It was really interesting, Taz, to sort of hear Chris Winton in the post-match talk about the fact that the pitch really wasn't conducive to good football and you got to play in certain areas. The fact of the matter is that, you know, with the likes of David Noble, and I thought, going by the highlights, I thought Zane Banton looked quite fresh as well. He looked to be getting involved in everything positive. The post-match, I have to say, was much, much improved. You know, Andy's now putting the questions forward. I think it's sort of mixed it up a little tiny bit because we're now learning things from these post-match. We're learning things of the tactics and the formation and how we approach the games. So well done to the club on that. In terms of the pitch, Dave, they just didn't really play the conditions well at all. And I think Adebiyi being back in the side, we lauded him quite rightly, sort of October, November time, because he was just majestic. He got made the fool guy, didn't he, by Ian early on in the season. But he's come back and he's been a towering presence. And when he wasn't there, he was a great, great miss. And direct balls or not, mate, you know, when you got him at the back of the line, he's going to be smashing us away all day long.
It's funny, if we don't score on Friday against Chelmsford, we say, well, if Sean Jeffers doesn't score, nobody scores. So it was good to see 2 players open their account.
Yeah, I think you know, we touched upon actually last week's talking about training facilities and stuff. Chris in the post-match actually mentioned how last week they managed to actually get 2 sessions on a full-size pitch, whereas normally they only get like a quarter size, 3/4 size. So, and we talked also about how important that reset was to give the lads a rest and then go fresh again in training. And I think we saw that on Saturday, especially after the last-minute defeat against Maidstone. You know, really deserved it. But interestingly, both Chris and Ian have talked about since how pleased they were with the response of the lads at full time, how devastated they were, because they saw how much it meant and how much they battled. And I think they've put that same sort of fight into the game against Hungerford, which was probably the more important game out of the 2 in terms of league position. And they've come up trumps. And now, you know, we've got 6 games left. And suddenly, you know, it's only 1 win. We shouldn't overreact. We shouldn't get too excited. But it gives us a chance, and we're inside the top 7, and the players have it all to play for again.
Also, I think you mentioned earlier, one of you, about how big the game was. If we'd lost, we'd be 6 points behind them. We're now above them on goal difference, as you say, in that final playoff position, and our future is now in our hands.
Who'd have seen this?
Which is an absolute. It's disgusting. It's just disgusting considering how crap we've been for like so many times. But the thing is, though, we have to appreciate that it's almost that City spirit of old now that we've sort of we've got to sort of tap into. One result doesn't salvage our season, far from it. But if we can now build upon this, literally just make it a mini season, focus on the next game, because I think there has been a bit of an element saying, oh, you know, we've got games in hand, we've still got to play this team and that team. And that's when we've fallen apart, because those teams have been turning us over and we haven't been playing well at all. And people haven't been performing. Let's just take each game. I know it's a horrific cliche, but if we start focusing about playoffs, that's when we slip up. Just focus on winning games of football first and foremost, and the playoffs will follow, surely.
Well, final word on Hungerford. Their bookings are pretty much the same as ours. They've had 78 to ours 79, but they played 6 games fewer. But they've had 11 red cards this season. We've had 1. That's too many.
Who's that one red card for the Saints gone to? I can't remember.
Concord, one of the games you didn't go to, Jake. Tom Bender.
Who? Never heard of him. That doesn't sound like him. Has he been sent off before?
Yeah, never.
We love you, Tom.
Right, so our future is back in our hands. Chelmsford City at Clarence Park on Good Friday, a 3 o'clock kickoff, I believe. And your season ticket holders or others, you can bring a friend for free or something. Details are online. Chelmsford, when we played them at their place, Jake, we had a lively evening, but on the pitch, we had 2 attempts on goal. Sean scored from 1, he hit the bar with the other. The rest of the game, Chelmsford were the better side. They should have won it. Got a cracking goal from Simeon Jackson. And Dave Willisey saw them in their last away game, Hemel Hempstead, 2-2 draw. And he said Chelmsford were by far the better side and should have won with plenty to spare. They're just 4 points away from relegation. If they get into a bad run now, they are in trouble. Yeah, it could be tougher than maybe we'd expect.
It's a dangerous game because, the Saints go into it on the back of a good win and they could easily slip up. How many times have we played teams at Clarence Park this season that are battling relegation and just absolutely flop? Let's be honest. We've done that too many times this season. And it's one of the reasons why we are wobbling for 7th when we could comfortably probably be 6th, really, in the playoffs, well inside. So it's very dangerous. It's a massive weekend. 2 big games coming up over it. But I say Chelmsford, they're no mugs. They're a good side. They caused us a lot of trouble on that Monday night fixture down in January. I think, they again caused us a lot of trouble from set pieces, which they're not the only side to do that this season. They deserved a point, really, even though we hit the bar. And the Saints, that evening, we talk about Hungerford playing a lot of long ball. The Saints played a lot of long ball, a lot of looking for the channels, just didn't work. So I think we've got to try and stick to sort of football we played at Hungerford, be a bit smart, but it's going to be difficult. We know it is. At least it's not Rod Stringer, although saying that Ian always seemed to win against Rod Stringer.
He's got his number, isn't he? I was going to say, yeah.
So it's Robbie Simpson, a young manager, and it's going to be difficult, but the Saints go into it very confident. That's all you can ask for.
Fancy us, Lee?
I do. It's not because of the win against Hungerford or the fact that Chelmsford season is just crumbling beneath them, but just the fact that we always seem to play well against Chelmsford, and it's just that thing where I always, call me a romantic, but I always fancy us at home, and I know we shouldn't, but because we play good football, we tend to play better football. It's just that I think this win will now kick us on. And I don't. We've been given a second opportunity now to salvage our season, and I think the players are hell bent on not spurning this chance because we've got a really, really good foundation of players, and I do believe at home against Chelmsford we should be looking for the 3 points.
I don't wish to disappoint you, Lee, but calling you a romantic wasn't the first word I was looking for. That
was surprise.
Chelmsford, 9 games without a win. They've only scored 6 times in those 9 games. Simeon Jackson is top scorer with 13. I think we're all edging towards a City win, which is obvious. One of them's going to win if it's not a draw. We're fats out and an unchanged side, one would have thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think, to be honest, the most important bit is going to be making sure Adebiyi is fit for it, to be honest, at the heart of defence. You saw his impact. And yeah, him and also David Noble. If David Noble, again with Noble, with 2 games in 48 hours, if we come into that difficult question of which game does he play, which game doesn't he start, etc. Do you start him at Clarence Park on a pitch he knows, or do you look for him at the away game at Hampton, which we know is probably out of the 2, probably the trickier fixture? So
you got to start him at home, haven't you?
I agree. Yeah,
you got to start him at home.
I'd have thought so, especially on this run of form, because, he's come into the side. He's looking very good. I mean, a 40-year-old midfielder who's just carrying us on his back at the minute. If you drop him does that really work? I don't think so on Friday.
He's a
You've got to
labourer,
start
though,
him.
so he's got some really strong old shoulders on him. To be honest with you, no. But the thing is, he's playing well in the 2 games he's come back. He ran the show at Maidstone. Okay, we didn't win, but we should have got a point, and we played really, really well. Hungerford, it was a scrappy game, but we won the game, and he was just pivotal to everything. So if he's fit, he's got to play.
And of course, those 2 wins were without Johnny Goddard, who at the start of the season looked to be our most creative player. And 2 recent results, as you say, we lost one, but much improved. And Hungerford, good win. If he's fit, does he come back into the side? Probably not at the minute, really, unless Ian tries to force him in. So yeah, some selection thoughts, but I would agree with Dave and Yuli. It's got to be an unchanged team, hasn't it?
You would have thought you'd go for your strongest perceived lineup on Friday, try and get the points in the bag, then worry about Monday. Don't try and be too clever, which is what clubs do with late substitutions. We see often that goes wrong as well. So just play what's in front of you. Don't look too far ahead is basically what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, and as Lee said earlier, it's one game at a time at the minute, isn't it? Just go for the win on Friday. Don't worry about Monday. Just get the 3 points on the board, one game at a time. We'll see where we are on Monday morning, but win on Friday, and that you're definitely in the playoff places going into Easter Monday.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it now, fellas. Oh, that's going to be great.
Hampton are one of the 7 sides, it'd be 8 if Concord win their game in hand, who have got their eyes on that final playoff place that we are now currently occupying. On Friday, they're playing Hemel Hempstead, so Hemel, one of those 2, whoever loses, they'll be the one to drop out from this race. So again, next Monday, whoever wins between us and Hampton, well, if we win Friday, we'll still be in it, even if we lose Monday. But we can really strengthen our position there and kick Hampton out, can't we?
Yeah, it's a proper scrap now, isn't it, for that final position? It's very exciting. But as I said, all we can worry about ourselves. But the other games in this league will really sort of cut down how many other teams are competing in the next couple of weeks, especially over Easter. There's a lot of teams playing each other. That's why it's important to win on Friday. Win Friday, and then whoever out of that game loses, then suddenly they're adrift, and then potentially one less team to worry about.
Do you remember back in December when they visited us? We beat them 3-0. They were the better side. Undoubtedly were the better side. We won 3-0 with 3 cracking goals.
I'd take that again on Easter Monday.
Do you remember it, Lee? Were you there for that one?
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Tabs, if you can't score goals, mate, there's not a lot of point in that, because we've got one of the best strikers in the entire league, arguably in non-league football. So only needs 1 or 2 chances, and there we go. So I think touching upon what Jake said there is absolutely right. Everyone's got to play each other, and this playoff race is far from over. And I believe there's going to be, and I believe that the fact is, rotations in and out of the sort of top 7 between now and the end of the season anyway. I just think Chelmsford game is the one we need to focus on to really cement ourselves in that little bracket of teams there, because it's not going to get any easier. And the fact is, we do like a capitulation or 2, and we have got a shambolic result in us, or 2 or 3. So it's just really important now to take the win at Hungerford and really kick on, and don't let this chance slip, because Friday at Clarence Park, the fans are going to come back in their numbers. It's going to be a glorious day, and if we can cap it off with 3 points, that will really, really put us in the driving seat for the playoffs.
It's funny, Hampton were like Havant and Waterlooville. They were dead and buried a couple of weeks ago. Now, they're 3 games unbeaten. They've kept a clean sheet in all 3, but they've all been against sides down the bottom of the table. We're their first, well, we hope we're their first severe test for a little while. So their current form may be just flattering them a little bit. I think it'd be a surprise if Hampton got into that final playoff place.
I agree. And after us, they play Hungerford. So they've got 3 huge games coming up, really, for Hampton to keep their season alive. And like you say, Dave, a couple of weeks ago, forget the start of the season, Hampton were really struggling to really get going at all. They had a lot of issues. They had players falling out. They had players being fined and being sanctioned for issues. So fair play to them, turned it around. But, we've got to go there confident, haven't we? But again,
don't forget, though, Jake, they were doing what we couldn't do and beating teams down the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're absolutely no mugs.
No.
So they've obviously got something over on us because they know how to sort of grind out teams and beat those teams that are prepared to battle and sort of dig in. So, you know, we really shouldn't be too confident because they can still cause an upset.
No, and you know, the Beavery is a tough hunting ground. We know it is. The Saints don't always go there and win, do they? You know, we've had some decent results there in recent years, but it's going to be difficult. I think the good thing is the Saints will have really good away support there on Monday. And again, with put these two games into perspective, because next weekend we play Dartford, who a very tough game. So we've got to make sure we get points on the board. But I think this Easter weekend, I'm like you say, Lee, earlier, I'm starting to get excited about it because we've got two games now.
Don't look it, mate, to be fair to you.
really good City support at both games.
Yeah.
And I just hope the players really buy into it because, you know, it's lucky for us to even be within a chance of getting into this top 7, frankly. So we've got to buy into it.
Can't argue. And you two like to make predictions on those games? Friday, Chelmsford, go on.
I thought we weren't going to sort of do predictions anymore because we are so catastrophically bad at it.
No, I didn't think so. I thought we're going to continue to humiliate the pair of you. But...
I'll go 2-1 Saints for Friday.
Is that Monday?
Because Monday I'm going to go 2-2.
Do you want to go, Lee, or is it happy?
I'm going to go 3-0 against Chelmsford. Yeah, why not? Why not? This is how the fellas inspire us. Hampton, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Right, we got another thing we're going to look at. At the fans forum, Ian Hall asked the joint owner
what your favourite colour wallpaper is. Oh no, that was the other one. Yeah, sorry.
That was better than the question Ian asked. About the club's finances, and he got a bit of a waffly answer, and a statement that the accounts for the previous year have not yet been finalised. Well, if you go on Company House website, you will find them there, as Kieran Maguire did at the Price of Football website, and he brought them to everyone's attention. And we're doing rather well, aren't we? Apparently in the bank, in June 2020, because City's accounts are to June each year, we had £30,000. June 2021, we had £400,000 in the bank. And think how much money we've made this season. With large crowds, the FA Cup money, handouts from several places, that 400,000, one would imagine, has grown some more because we don't think the budget is eating into it any more than it ever used to. And also, the club took out a loan, £285,000 from the English Sports Council. Any idea why?
Was it to do with sort of the COVID sort of support packages? I don't really know why. And I'm sure there is a reasonable explanation. So it'd be interesting to compare it to other clubs at this level to see if they took out similar. I would say Kieran Maguire, who's got a very good podcast, The Price of Football, sort of when he posted it, he didn't really seem to raise any sort of concerns in terms of other clubs he will raise if there's a concern or a figure that really stands out. So obviously that sort of 285, whatever it was from Sports England, I suspect is to do with COVID packages. I haven't done too much research into it. But yeah, interesting, isn't it? And as you say at the forum, sorry, Lee, just I say at the forum, when Ian asked that question, Lawrence did say that the club is in better financial health now than it was at the last fans forum. And looking at the basic figures, you have to say, yes, it is.
Why has Kieran chosen us? You know what I mean? Because I appreciate there are, you know, millionaires and oligarchs and billionaires taking over clubs all across the world. Why did he sort of publish the figures for St Albans City?
So, because he's a financial football expert and he's got a lot of time on his hands. So having listened to his podcast, he has automatic notifications for every single football club in England, pretty much, when they file their reports. So he gets the email about 6 a.m. every morning. And if you go through his Twitter feed, it's just a constant stream of football clubs. So he'll do it for every other club at our level, and he did it for Billericay Town about a month and a half ago, who had a lot of debt issues themselves. So, of course, another standout figure, which I'm sure you'll mention, Dave, is the sort of the figure with Hearts Holding Company. What's it called? Hertfordshire Sports Holdings.
Hertfordshire Sports Holdings, yeah,
That's
which
it.
is the company owned by the two owners that they set up when they took on the club, and they use that to put the money into that company to put the money into the football club.
Yes, and I know you put in your notes, which I'm sure some people have sadly read, that at the Fans Forum a couple of years ago, Lawrence said that they'd start to take money back to sort of compensate for what they've put in once a club's starting to cut a profit. Is that true?
Yeah, I asked him directly if it's shown as a loan, do you intend taking the money back? And he said, yes, they do take it back, but only when the club is turning in a profit. It could be said, we're turning in a profit now. It's £285,000. They haven't got to start paying it back till September 2025. You assume they'll still be with us, so it'll still be their loan. If not, new owners will be happy to get a loan like that to clear off. But someone has suggested, who knows more about finances than me, they've got it at such a good rate. They've only haven't paid back. The interest rate is only 2% on it, and so they're not paying it back for over about 3.5 years, the first payment. And they could see that as being a good time to get that loan if they could get it, and obviously they did get it.
I mean, we have to remember, these accounts reflect a very strange time in football with the COVID lockdowns and also furloughing of staff playing, and I'm sure some club staff as well. So I'm interested to see in terms of savings from that, etc., how that impacted. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. As you say, Dave, again, with the money we've made this season from increased attendances, FA Cup, and of course, those accounts also cover a lot of the impact of Enshikari on stuff like shirt sales, etc., merchandise. So it's all very interesting. We won't ever really get a full picture because they don't publish the profits and losses because they don't have to. But yeah, very interesting to at least see an initial breakdown and a bit of a glance that I know some people that are financially minded have been looking at. And yeah, it's good for supporters to at least see what's going on, even if it's at a very high, not particularly detailed
To be
level.
fair though, fellas, there were so many grants and loans available to the football club, both government, local and national, and from the lottery and other sports organisations. I don't really begrudge the club looking to sort of capitalise on everything that's available to them.
No.
I mean, it's smart, if anything else. I've had my look at it. There's nothing there which thinks, Christ Almighty, what's going on here. Yes, that 285,000 is quite a large amount, but it's come from a reputable governmental source, so it's not as though it's been a result of me drinking the 3 brewers under the table. It's
I think I don't think there's any thing to say anything underhand. Nothing there.
It was interesting. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's interesting.
Interesting what it is for. Surely it's not to be used for funding the work that would go into a possible new ground. You wouldn't get a loan for that, would you?
No,
Well, don't forget though, Tavs, that the 2 owners, they're businessmen themselves, so they would have been impacted. Therefore, that it might be detrimental to the amount of money that they put in to support the club. Therefore, they've had to sort of, maybe look at this loan to help subsidise them running the club, because that's what it's for. I think it's very, very. I think we should be very cautious in making assumptions as into why they acquired the money and for whatever reason for. The fact of the matter is that without these fellas, we may not be in the situation that we're currently in. And if they're quite savvy. So them taking, full potential on all of the loans and finance that's available to them is very smart indeed.
Yeah, I mean, we see from the 895k how much John and Lawrence have had to put into the club in, what is it, 11 years they've been here now, Dave? It's about that, isn't it? So it's a huge figure. And I did have sort of one supporter ask me, well, that makes me worry if John and Lawrence did suddenly have to leave, something happened, pull the plug suddenly. Of course, that's a concern. But of course, Lawrence did say that they have no intention to at all anyway at the moment. So of course, it's a startling figure in that respect. But as you say, in terms of the loans from Heart Sports Council, Lee, you're a business owner, and John and Lawrence have both run very successful businesses. John still does. They know what they're doing, and yeah, I'm sure it's all sensible, really. But it's just very interesting to see that breakdown because so rarely do we get any sort of insight into the club's finances.
Yeah, and those figures also show liabilities of 1.2 million. Presumably that includes the 800,000 owned to Hertfordshire Sports Holdings.
Yeah, and I think it also includes the 200 odd for the Sports Council, I believe. That may be wrong, not exact on that. But I think also the accounts show, I think there's a 15 employed members of staff, I believe, somewhere on there as well. So again, interesting figures we don't hear about often. But yeah, we can't, Lawrence said the club's in a healthier financial position now, and there's a lot of clubs that couldn't say that after COVID. And again, I'm sure there's also a lot of clubs that have taken similar loans. Again, it would be worth having a look into that. Anyone that's got a bit of spare time, if you're watching this, you must have spare time.
Yeah, if you've got much spare time as Kieran's got, obviously.
Yes. Well, Lee made a point earlier about we don't know the position of other clubs, which also may have got money in during this time, quite legitimately. And talking to Gavin Willisey, who's heavily involved in the Football League and rugby, he says he knows a local rugby club, similar sort of level to us, is the way he put it. They also, for want of a better phrase, have done well during lockdown. Their finances are not looking too bad at all. So maybe all sports clubs, if they've looked after themselves properly, may have done okay out of this. When there was that big worry, wasn't there, about so many clubs going down, and it was going to be a domino effect.
Yeah, and I think they have to say, the support packages, etc., have done the job, haven't they? Thankfully, no real clubs have suffered the ultimate fate that before COVID seemed inevitable, which is really good. And City, a change of circumstances here or there could easily be in that situation. We've been on the edge a number of times in our history. Thankfully, things look a lot better at the minute. But yeah, as you say, Dave, I doubt we're the only club. I doubt we're, clubs across the sports spectrum have done it. So yeah.
Out of the 15 full-time members of staff, would one of them happen to be a dashing club historian by any chance, Mr. D. Tavener?
Oh yeah, that'd be the day.
Brilliant, dear me. But it's I suppose we've talked about a lot this season, haven't we, about lack of transparency from the club at times. So this is a bit of transparency that they have to file, of course, with Companies House. That otherwise we don't particularly get. So I think that's why certain supporters are interested, just to see what the figures present and how they come out. So if anyone is interested, just go to Companies House and search St Albans City FC in the search bar, and it will all come up with all the details that you can get. And again, if you've got spare time, which you will do, go have a look.
It's this season, this year up to 30th of June last year, I should say, and previous years as well, as you get all of those, and you can also get Hertfordshire Sports Holdings figures as well, should you be so inclined.
Yes, and of course, it's going to be a long time until the next accounts, but those counts it'll be much more interesting to see what those goes, because much more reflective of a normal season or season and a half with bigger crowds, expenditure, income. That'll be very interesting.
Well, another thing, of course, it did come up at the fans forum. If we've got all this money and we assume we're going to have even more in the bank after the season we've just had, should we get into the playoffs? Should we win the playoffs? They talked about going full time at the fan forum. Would they then have to look at it?
They did look at it, didn't they?
With a bit of background to it as well.
Yeah.
So Dean Austin turned around to us and said, they've looked at it. They've catered and planned for all scenarios. And although it wouldn't be ideal in terms of the current playing staff to go up because they've all got jobs and stuff, you can't let that stop our progression. There's money there. Ian said that Lawrence has always made money available. So it's just a matter of, if we do go up, we've got to go full time. We can't have that scenario again, Tabs, where you and I are watching us play Tamworth in April and we've not trained for sort of 2 weeks and the players are out on their knees, and we've got to have a full-time professional squad going into the Vanarama National League. And these new accounts shows that we are in a very good position to do that.
I would say that, the club is probably in a position probably wouldn't be ideal to have to go to full-time suddenly over summer, but the club is probably in the best position it's been in terms of on the pitch and off the pitch to make that change if it has to at short notice over the summer. So yeah, it's not going to be like 2006. So I think if it does happen, I think
What a season though, Jacob.
Oh, what a season!
What a season!
I would absolutely just love that conference season, a repeat of it. But
Mate, if you want love is Morecambe in your rear view mirror.
Oh,
that's what the love is, mate. I tell you.
Dean and Austin with Dean and Austin.
Dean and
Ian.
He's paid twice, is he?
He's been on a this again, hasn't he?
Oh, God. Dean and Ian were very clear that they would be more than happy to make the changes if they have to at short notice. Because I think, as we've talked about before, they'd just be happy to get proper training facilities that they can use more than twice a week. So, yeah. So I think the club's in a position to do it. And they say we've got all this extra background, but we'll see what the next couple of weeks hold. But yeah, we've looked at the financial results as a bunch of amateurs with no idea. So hopefully that provides some insight for some people.
Cool. That Tamworth game, Lee, confirmed our relegation, and we had a club record 8 players booked, as I remember.
What a day!
Oh, happy days!
What a day! The people don't. Right, people nowadays, they don't know, do they? They don't know the torment we have to go through. Now, like the worst thing that's going to happen happens to them is, they're going to run out of paella or falafel or whatever. Getting 8 players booked and getting absolutely dicked on by Tamworth, mate, that was poor.
And that was one of our better days that season.
It was. It honestly was. Yeah.
Right, we're recording this on Tuesday, the 12th of April. So that means tomorrow, the 13th of April, you go back to the 13th of April, 1908. It's a very significant day. Because my grandmother was born. Apart from that, it was also the day St Albans City Football Club came into being. This notice was in the Hearts advertiser. It wasn't in gold then. Peter Taylor did this in gold. Public announcement. A meeting will be held at the Town Hall St Albans on Monday next, April the 13th at 8:15 p.m. for the purpose of forming a football club for the city of St Albans to be affiliated to the Amateur Football Association. Blah, blah, blah. The thing about that, the Amateur Football Association, that's the old boys set up for public schools and whatnot. And that's what the meeting was set up for. But fortunately, George Wagstaff Simmons, a very significant figure in Hertfordshire football and a full English FA, he ground his opponents into submission in the end and got them to agree to join the Football Association, not the Amateur Football Association, which is how we came to be St Albans City Football Club, playing in Hearts County League and the Spartan League in 1908. And that's why we are where we are now.
Jacob, every day's a school day, my friend, isn't it, eh?
I know, I can't believe it. I should have brought
That's amazing.
Cake. Oh, damn, that's amazing.
Oh, and also, in that photo up there, St Albans City 25 years ago, it's Steve Eames. Happy birthday to Eamesy for Thursday.
Happy birthday, Eamesy.
I would say, imagine how much happier he would be without the club. So, we're here. What else could we be doing with our time without St Albans City?
Looking at finances of various football clubs.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, so happy birthday to the club. Oh, Dave, I'm sure everyone loved that.
See, this is what you're here for. This is the sort of content that I expect you to come up with, Tabs, on a regular basis. Not bemoaning the fact they're not playing Bruce Springsteen on the tannoy.
Oh, also, we had one question from Twitter asking, Dave, how far out do you think Bayley Brown's strike was? Because looking back on the highlights, everyone thinks it's a bit closer than it actually they thought at the time.
No, at the time I thought it was about 20 yards.
20 yards.
Because he was actually right in front of us. You can see Tim, John, and I, and Tim Petty as well, standing there most of the game, chattering, not watching the football, and we were pretty much in line. But it was 20, 22 yards at most. But it was at an angle, which of course makes it a bit further. It's superb. Yeah. Okay, for both goals, Luke Kearney in goal for them. Just stood there and watched both goals go in, didn't he? He didn't move. That's a good goal. Oh, should I try to stop it?
There you go, Nigel. A bunch of gormless-looking blokes at the side of the pitch tell you it's 22 yards out.
On that note, and that was that our only question this week? Oh,
yes, it was. Yes.
But has anyone got any questions at all about City or us or anything to do with that? Jake, do you want to give them the Twitter handle, my friend?
Yep, at a Podful of Saints. We've also got the email address. I think we want to say thank you for the really good amount of people that watched last week's or the week before episode. Yeah. Really good. So thank you very much for the support. Really appreciate it. Thank God we know it's not just us watching these. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. We try our best.
It's us and our mums just sort of like, unsubscribing, subscribing again. Get them hits up.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you very much.
Jake, you used your girlfriend's birthday to get out of watching last Saturday's game. What excuse have you got for Friday?
I don't have one. She's not around.
No?
I've got to actually go to the
What have we done
games.
to her?
She's down in Bath this weekend. Actually, I'll send her off to watch them, do a scouting report. But yeah, so sadly, I'll be at both games this weekend. Oh.
Jolly good.
And
Right,
hopefully
see
you will
everybody
be
on
too.
Friday.
Yeah. Thanks everyone.
Take care. See you later.
Bye bye.